probably about 10 years ago that she was sitting in the same seats that you guys are sitting in. So she was one of the earlier classes that we had as part of this leadership council. And now she's gone on to bigger and better things, and she's nice enough to come back and to speak to you guys. So Breanne Gleason attended Central High School. She's a 4-year member of the varsity softball and swim team. She graduated in 2006. From there, she went on to play at the University of New Haven, where she was a 2-time All-American as a pitcher, recorded over 1,000 strikeouts, and had 100 wins on the mound, and was recently inducted to the University of New Haven Athletic Hall of Fame. She graduated from New Haven in 2010 with a degree in sports management and accounting. She started her coaching career at the University of New Haven as a graduate assistant in the fall of 2010 and graduated in the spring of 2012 with a master's in business administration. She was hired as an assistant coach at Central Connecticut in the summer of 2012 and helped lead the Central to its first NEC title in school history that spring. The following year, in 2013, she was named as acting head coach at CCSU, and in 2015, she led CCSU to its second NEC title in the spring of 2015. She was officially named head coach in the summer of 2015, and is entering her 4th season as the head coach of the Blue Devils. If I'm not mistaken, I believe when she first became the head coach of Central Connecticut, she was the youngest head coach in the country for a Division I softball program. So she's had quite an outstanding career, and she's just early into her coaching career, so we continue to expect big things from Breanne. And let me introduce Breanne Gleason.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. I set my phone up here, so I have a couple notes, so I won't keep you guys here for too long. You guys get amazing time. All right. So when I thought about what I was going to say to you guys when I came up here, I tried to think back to those 10 years ago, in 2005, when I was sitting in your seat, what I would want to hear. And what I came up with is that I decided that I just was going to talk to you guys about my journey as a leader. When I was your age, I felt like people always wanted to give me all the answers, and they acted like they had all the answers all the time. And to be honest, I did not have all the answers, and I continue to not have all the answers. But my journey was very interesting, and it brought me to where I am today. So I don't have any regrets. I don't wish anything was different. And just going to tell you my story that works for you guys. I think leadership is the most important thing that a team can have. I believe that championships are won by great leaders. I don't think championships are won by defense. I don't think they're won by offense. As much as it kills me to say, I don't think that they're won by pitching either. I think that leaders give you the X factor that you need to be a championship team. We've won 2 NEC championships in 4 years at Central, and the only thing that those 2 teams had in common were the fact that we had great leaders. The other 2 years that I've been there, the teams were probably more talented. We had better players. We had better numbers, but we didn't win because we didn't have anyone leading us. When things got tough, we just crumbled. We didn't have that X factor. So no matter how talented your team is, if you don't have a good leader or a couple good leaders, there's no way that you can win. So when I think about how I became a leader, I think about my freshman year in high school at Central. As a starter on the varsity softball team, there was a couple senior girls who weren't big fans of mine. They bullied me a little bit. They tried to convince me that they deserved my spot more than I did, that I only played because I was a favorite. But if you know Coach Pirog, you know that he doesn't have favorites. He didn't really like any stuff. But then I thought because they were seniors, they deserved to be captains, right? Because that's what we're taught in high school. The seniors, they grow up, they've been there, they get to lead you. But I didn't want to follow them because of the way they made me feel. It had nothing to do with their athletic ability. I didn't care that they weren't starters. I didn't care that they were seniors, but I didn't want to follow them because of how they made me feel. And I'll never forget something that my mom told me. She said, Breanne, when you're a senior, make sure you never make a freshman feel the way these girls made you feel. And without knowing it, my mom gave me the most important piece of leadership advice I ever received. because she was telling me that a leader needs perspective. A leader needs to make people want to follow them. If you think you're a leader, but you look behind you and no one's there, you're not leading anybody. You're just walking in your own space, right? So the next event that I can think of that led me to be the leader I am today, or leader I try to be today, was when I was again a freshman, but this time I was at New Haven. I was still in the mindset that if you were the best player on the team, you deserve to lead. The only problem with that is that people that lead by example usually keep their mouth shut, right? Because they're just leading with their actions. I had a problem doing that. I thought being a leader meant calling my teammates out when they made mistakes and letting them know how poorly they were doing when we lost. And I thought that that would make them respect me. I thought that that would make them think I was a tough leader. When in reality, it did the complete opposite. It made me separate from my teammates, and it didn't make them look up to me. It made them not like me. And after our less than great season, my freshman year, I had a meeting with my coach. And she asked me, and I'll never forget what she asked me because it changed the way I thought about a lot of things in life. She said, "Bree, if you got hurt, if you tore something in your shoulder, and you could no longer contribute to this team on the field, do you think that anyone would want to follow you?" And I thought about it for a minute because at that point in my life, I knew I could come up with a way to say yes. But my coach answered for me, and she said no. She said, just because you're a good pitcher does not make you a leader. And it made me reevaluate a lot of things in my life and how I tried to lead. So my sophomore year, I came back, and I was determined to make my teammates like me, right? Because I thought they didn't like the way that I made them feel freshman year. So let's make them like me now, and they'll want to follow me. But in trying to make my teammates like me, I gave them a lot of room to complain to me. I did a lot of telling people what they wanted to hear. So when people would complain about workouts, or they would complain about just things that my coach would decide, playing time, things like that, I commiserated with them. And I thought that was going to make them respect me because I was on their side. But all I was doing was giving life to the victim mentality. I was telling them that it was okay to complain, that it was okay to blame other people, that it was okay to be a victim of your own circumstance. And that wasn't being a leader. I was making us essentially a very whiny, excuse-filled team. We did very well my sophomore year on the field, but we were a soft team. You know those teams that you play that as soon as things get tough, they just roll over? That was us. When things were going well, they went really well. We made it to a regional final. We won over 30 games, which at that time was a school record. We were good, but we weren't great. And it was because we didn't have anyone leading us in a great direction. It wasn't until the fall of my junior year where something happened and I realized what I was missing. I realized why I hadn't yet become a good leader. My coach set up a game of ultimate ball against the lacrosse team. Do you guys know what ultimate ball is? Like team handball, kind of? It's basically lacrosse without sticks. So as softball players, we didn't stand a chance. They were running circles around us, literally. The only thing we had on them was that we were very competitive, and we were a lot bigger than the lax girls. So needless to say, things got pretty physical pretty fast. And in my head, I thought they deserved it. You know what I mean? It wasn't our fault. We were bigger than them, stronger than them, more competitive than them. They just happened to be a little bit more fit than us. But so as things got aggressive, one of my teammates, Gabby, got shoved a little too hard for her liking. And she then threw a high elbow and hit one of the lax girls right in the jaw. Our coach then yelled the one line that I know none of you want to hear, which is get on the line. So the lax girls left, and we had to get on the line of the football field. And has anyone seen the movie Miracle? You guys have seen that movie? You know the scene where they're doing the sprints, and the coach just wants the right answer, and they keep doing sprints until someone finally gives them the right answer? Yeah? Okay. That was our life that day. We started around 4 p.m. and I swear to God, we ran until it was dark. Until finally, Gabby, the girl who had elbowed the lax girl in the face, said, "Coach, stop. The team should not be being punished for my actions." And I just looked at her and I was amazed because we had all thrown elbows. We had all pushed some people over. We had all done things wrong. Gabby was just the one that got caught. It wasn't her fault, right? But she was willing to take accountability for her actions, for our actions. She was not willing to be a victim of her circumstance. She realized that she allowed what was going on in that ultimate ball game to control her, and she took accountability for it. And I realized what it felt like to want to follow someone. And I realized that it was because Gabby took accountability for her actions and our actions. She didn't blame us. She didn't blame lacrosse. She didn't blame Jen, our coach. She blamed herself. And that's what I was missing. So I can finally say that by senior year in college, I finally got it right. I started by holding myself to higher standards than I held my teammates. I started by holding myself accountable, by not blaming my coach when she made us run. I realized that conditioning and running and hard practices were all part of making us a championship team. I didn't commiserate with teammates, I was honest with them. I didn't blame them, I explained to them where our coach was coming from. I feel like by senior year, I finally saw the big picture. And that was the difference for me. Realizing that a leader takes accountability not only for themselves, but for their teammates. So when my teammates thought it was okay to slack in practice, I didn't get mad at them and tell them that they were slacking or making errors, because obviously they knew. I asked myself, why did they feel that this behavior was acceptable? And that was my fault. That was on me. I should never have set a tone that allowed them to feel that not crossing the line was acceptable, to cut corners was acceptable. So, in essence, as a good leader, you have to take accountability for yourself and the actions of your teammates. And that was the biggest difference for me. I didn't realize that. I thought my coach was being too hard on me when she would blame things that my teammates did on me. I felt bad for myself. But by senior year, I realized if I just showed them the way, if I gave them the tools they needed to be successful as a team, we would do better. So my favorite quote about leadership is, "Attitude reflects leadership." And it's from one of the best football movies I think ever. But so if you ever are wondering how you're doing as a leader, and it's a path, right? You're not going to get it right the first time. But if you're ever wondering how you're doing, all you have to do is look around, because your team will show you. Thank you.
I'd like to do some questions and answers. If anybody has any questions for Breanne, please feel free. One thing I would like to know is, as a college coach, you know, you recruit obviously a lot of players. What do you look for when you're recruiting a player? I know it's not just athletic ability, but
Yeah.
what do you look for?
I would honestly say athletic ability is probably the last thing that we look for, because everyone's athletically talented, right? I mean, we go to games, if you're on a varsity team, if you're on a summer team, you're going to be pretty good at the sport that you play. I look for X factors. I look for heart, passion, and leadership. Those are the three things I look for. And if you're also good at the sport, that's awesome. Because we can't bring in people to our program that don't have those X factors, because it's literally my job to go out and find good softball players. But it's also the Bryant coach's job to do that, and LIU, and Sacred Heart. So we're all doing the same thing, but we have to be the coach that brings in the people with the X factor. And it's very easy to see from the sideline. So.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, just kind of a quick follow-up to that. How about advice for these guys as far as the, recruiting process and what they can be doing, those that, at whatever level they plan to go on in college and want to play, as far as reaching out to coaches and play, whether at the high school level or the travel teams. What's the advice for them?
Are you guys all seniors or juniors? Seniors. All right. So my advice would be to email the coaches that you want to play for. But I think more importantly than that, I think you need to make sure that you find a school that you love, right? Because everyone says they want to play D1, right? I played D2, and it was the best decision that I ever made. Because I love New Haven. I'm so proud of that school and that softball program and everything that we did. And I wouldn't be standing here today if I didn't make that decision at your age. So I think you guys need to make sure that you, number one, find a school that you love and you feel like you're at home. And then, since you're seniors, you can call the coach and they can call you back. Some people think we're rude, but NCAA rules dictate who we can and cannot call back. So if you're not a junior, we can't call you back. So if you were a sophomore calling coaches, they don't hate you, they just can't call you back. They can't email you back until you're a junior either. So I would say reach out to them as much as possible. Do you guys make videos in your sports?
Yeah.
Videos are huge because we have a very limited amount of time and we have a limited amount of people we can send on the road at a time. So if we can see you and see something that we like, then we can go see you play in person. But if it's just an email and just, you know, your life story, that's really not going to give us incentive to come out and see you. We have to see something in your video that's going to say, a video is not going to be a yes. It can be a no, but it's usually a maybe. So.
Breanne,
Yeah.
who were your mentors growing up and gave you the guidance and direction that you have now?
I feel like this is so lame, but my family obviously was the biggest influence. My mom and dad did so much for me. I feel like when I was in high school, I didn't appreciate everything that they did because I thought that's just their job. But then when I met my teammates at school, I realized that it wasn't their job, that they were just exceptional at it. That not everyone had the parents that I had that brought me to every softball game, to every swim practice, to back when I played basketball, which wasn't very long. But when I did that, they brought me to anything, they bought me anything I needed. And I feel like I didn't appreciate it when I was your age. So if you get anything out of what I say, just go home and say thank you to whoever made it possible for you to be here. So I would definitely say my family, and then my pitching coach when I was in high school was my role model. I wanted to be exactly like her. She was an All-American at UMass, and she was definitely who got me to love pitching the way that I do and love softball. And I wouldn't be here without Jen.
Another Bristol girl.
Yep. Eastern though, it's different.
They're all Bristol.
Yeah.
We're all Bristol. Any other questions?
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you, Bree. I
No problem.
appreciate it.